Hello and welcome to the Education on Fire podcast. The place where we share creative and inspiring learning in our schools. Season 4, Episode 57. Hello and welcome back to the Education on Fire podcast with me, Mark Taylor. Today I'm joined by Craig McLeish, who many of you will know as the musical director of Young Voices, and I thought it'd be fantastic to get a behind-the-scenes idea of his background and a behind-the-scenes idea for you, people that have actually been involved with the thousands of people who've been involved at Young Voices and some of the other projects that he's involved in. So Craig, thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very much for asking me.
So,
welcome.
Yeah, let's first of all start off with a little bit about your background, how you got into music and why it's such a passion for you.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit out of my control. When I was 7, some teacher who was an amateur opera singer heard me singing the hymns in assembly at school, at a primary school, and suggested to my parents that I tried for a choir school. And they suggested St Paul's Cathedral, and we didn't really know that was a thing that you could do, And I got in, and they sent me off for 5 years. I thought it was the worst mistake. The first day they thought it was the worst mistake I ever made. I was bawling my eyes out. Age 7 in a strange place with 37 other boys. That's all there was in the school, 38 boys and 3 teachers and a matron in the middle of London. I mean, it's pretty difficult, weird environment for that. But
Absolutely.
you get used to it, and it's just an incredible experience singing every day for 5 years, and after 1 year they put you in the choir and you're a professional. And while I was there, I was very lucky that Barry Rose arrived in 1973 and basically revolutionised the sound of the choir, and we were world class within a year. And so I had 3 great years with him, and then he took it on further from that.
Sure.
And my brother joined, and he got all the money from all the Russell Harty programs and the recordings. But I had a lot of fun, and it was an incredible musical experience. And you just soak it up. At that age, you don't know you're doing it. You're learning to sight read, and you're learning to harmonise, and you're learning a love of music and particularly choral music.
And that just becomes an integral part of, like I say, of what you know, is almost by osmosis. You're there, you're learning it, you're exposed to it.
I guess,
all.
and only other choristers who've been through that will totally understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and so where did you go from there? How long were you there for?
Well, it's 5 years, so I was head chorister for the Silver Jubilee year, 1977, which places me on the age cap, and then went to Dulwich College, where was some good music going on, but I didn't make full use of it, I will admit. Having been at St Paul's Cathedral and being able to sight read virtually anything, I didn't go to enough choir rehearsals, and I used to basically write rock songs and do jazz with some friends on the side and then turn up for the concerts, which I'm very sorry, Mr. Morgan, I didn't attend all your rehearsals, but I did the O-level and the A-level music thing there, and then that took me up to York University. I tried for Cambridge, but failed miserably because I, for some reason, tried to enter as a French student.
Right.
Because I was in an A set, and I thought no one gave me any careers advice at school. I thought I'll do French because I'm good at it. I got an A, and then I'll do music as a sort of hobby. I mean, don't know what I was talking about. Went to Cambridge, failed a ridiculous French interview where I spoke no French at all, but met a wonderful guy called Peter Lahure, and those other choristers and other people, church singers, will know him as a wonderful editor of Byrd, Gibbons, Tompkins, Purcell anthems and services. And he gave me all the advice, and he said, well, don't do French, do music, don't do it here, you'll hate it, go to somewhere like York. So he basically mapped me out, and unfortunately he died very soon after that, so I wasn't able to thank him for doing that, but that's what happened.
And it's amazing how these people in your life are just so integral, aren't they? You don't necessarily know where they're going to come from or what that conversation is, but they're just the most important thing,
And then Wilf Mellors at York, he was actually just about to leave, but I did meet him, and he'd set up this wonderful course up at York, which was virtually entirely practical. He managed to sort of avoid any necessity for exams and essays and that sort of thing. We did a few, but not too many. It was all practical. It was like a wonderful 3 years of then doing music. So it was just, and that variety it appealed to me. We did African music, we did Javanese gamelan, obviously the orchestral and the choral stuff, electronic music, jazz, and all sorts of things. And then I did some rock and pop on the side. So that was another 3 years of intense kind of musical gathering. Then I went to London to do 1 year at the Guildhall on an early music course where I played lute and viol and sang, because I had a love of that sort of music as well. But while I was there, other opportunities arose. There's a jazz course there. I did some writing for them, and I was copying music, because that was still pre-computers, would you believe? 1985, 86. And I was in a team of copyists somehow that worked on all the music in the West End and all the TV stuff. It's a wonderful guy called George Bamford, and he worked in a little tiny basement office in King's Cross, and I'd come down on my bike and pick up some pencil score by somebody I didn't know. These are all very famous composers. I found out later, recently. And would copy out the parts overnight. Indian ink on acetate, 90p a page. If you make one mistake, scrumple up, you start again.
Right, gosh.
So I'd work all through the night on this stuff. Les Miserables, Miss Saigon. I wrote out the music to Crime Watch theme, which was recorded the next day. Things like that. It was a bizarre time, but that got me into all sorts of things. Of course, having the choral background, I did some singing at St Paul's and Southwark and Westminster. Did some dep work there, not full time, but just helping out, and just starting the plate spinning on all these bits and pieces.
So it's that kind of varied background, which is really, excuse me, and which is really that sort of gives you that, I guess, from an arranging point of view, you hear so much, you see so much, you're exposed to so many different things. I suppose that gives you an insight which is hard to gain any other way, really.
Maybe, yes, and maybe it's given me a love of the different genres of music and a little bit of a perception as to how those types of music should be done, and not watered down. And
so, how did you get involved with Young Voices? How did that all come about?
Okay, well, through various contacts in London, I was working, and we shared a flat with a wonderful conductor called David Lawrence, who was a singer as well, and so we kept in touch. He's godfather to one of my children, and 18 years ago he called me up and said, there's a vacancy with this work that I'm doing. It's called Young Voices. And I said, well, oh, that's wonderful. So would you like to be the MD, sort of arranging and stuff? Yeah, sounds amazing, but I can't do Tuesdays because I have a chamber choir. I didn't quite understand the scale of the thing. He laughs at that story even today, as much as possible. And so I got this. He basically suggested me for the job, and we've been working on it together ever since. It's a real collaboration.
Amazing. And it has that sort of family feel, like you say, that sort of collaboration and all working together. And we were just sort of chatting before we started recording about the fact that it's a real family thing for everybody involved, from the teachers and the resources that they have to the great experience for the kids and the parents who come to watch.
Well, the company itself is owned by a family, the Lewis family, headed up by David, who is an amazing entrepreneur and visionary, I think, and a risk taker, because he once chartered 24, this is the legendary apocryphal story, chartered 24 jumbo jets to take the largest male voice choir from Wales to New York.
Gosh.
It didn't quite come off, and I think he lost everything, but then built up from scratch. But he always had this amazing vision of having lots of people sing together, and so Young Voices is now what it is. The first tour I was on was simply a week. I think it was 4 or 5 concerts, one in each city. I think it was Sheffield, Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle. I think we went to Belfast as well. Wonderful place called the Odyssey there, and the children in Ireland sing like you wouldn't believe. And that was it. It was a week, and now we're a week in each venue.
Yeah,
and then that's probably more than that. It's flopping over into 2 weeks. 7 days in London, 7 in Birmingham, I think. So it's wonderful to see. That's obviously people who are liking it, talking to other people and saying, try this. And then other people saying, we can do that too. And then a lot of the schools around here, I don't think there's hardly a school around here that isn't doing it. In all the villages, it's wonderful. I'm so proud. And I look up at the concerts and see the flag. Oh, I know those guys. Hi, give us a wave. They're just down the road,
Yeah.
And I feel very proud about it.
And what do you think that magic is? What is it that draws everyone in? Not enough just to have one experience, but to have multiple ones.
I hope it's a lot of things. I hope, because we do try and improve our experience year on year. And I hope it's a combination of all sorts of things. We're passionate about I'm passionate about the children's experience, not just the concert, but the whole appreciation of music as a whole and the getting into it, the sharing of it together. I want them to be excited when they hear the music pack. So this learning music pack, like this is kind of the template had been set up for me because I didn't do the first 3 years. And so I listened to the previous one, and there was some really good arranging on there. You know, some carefully worked out long medleys of stuff which flowed from song to song. I'd done some medleys before within a wonderful group I'd been involved with called the Methodist Association of Youth Clubs, Orchestra and Singers, which takes almost as long to say as you do to actually write some stuff for them. But they wonderful old friends as well, and a brilliant experience. And the concept of the medley had been suggested to me by my predecessor from there as well. And the medleys are great because if somebody doesn't like a song, it's only a minute until the next one. And if you love that one, there's this kind of excitement that runs through. Oh, is this one? A couple of years ago, we did put Adele, Hello, in the pop medley. And every time those chords came in, there was this, oh, I love this one, I love this one. You could hear the excitement. And I am hoping that excitement and that discovery and that shared experience is happening right from day one in the schools when the teachers put on the CD for the first time and the kids go, oh, this sounds amazing. Or, oh, I love this one. I know how this goes. My brother this, my dad da-da-da-da. Yeah. And so that shared excitement, that sort of family experience gets shared around. I want the teachers to feel totally comfortable with all the resources we give them. There are always a few little odd moments that crop up, lyrically, particularly in the pop songs. I try and steer clear of anything controversial. Well, there's a lot of that out these days, so you have to tread very, very carefully, and that's a nightmare. But the kids know the songs already, so the kids teach the teachers the pop stuff. But you still have to be saying, look, we've got the lyrics, here they are. You're being responsible for something which they are being led to do. So I want the teachers to be happy with the way we put all the music and the resources we give them. And if they're not particularly musically trained, we want to give them the resources in ways they can understand. So we give them notes, helpful ideas. We run workshops for not the musical and not so musical teachers to give them ways into training the choirs, to improving their experience, to helping them with their head voice, to helping them with tuning, to helping them with learning the words, all sorts of things. And I'm passionate about the parents coming as well, and knowing that they're in safe hands with the variety of music that we give them and with the experience we give them at the end. So I want the parents to come and say, wow, we've been to the O2, we've seen an amazing show. So the lighting, the stage design, the artists that we get to work with the kids, hopefully we're trying to improve that year on year on year, so that no one falls through the net and says, oh, well, that wasn't worth it, or that was rubbish. And so maybe, hopefully, that it's a little bit, without having planned it, like the cyclists who think on every little aspect and try and improve it every, the aerodynamics, the food. I think just because of our passion, we just try and improve every little aspect of this if we can. And even throughout the tour, we start day one, we've done dress rehearsals, we've done 2 days of rehearsing with the band, and then we're trying to get it all together. After day one, well, that didn't work. Then day two, we have a long meeting the next morning, and every day for the next 2 or 3 weeks, we assess the show. We hone it, we advance it. So if you come to the show at the end of the tour, hopefully we've learned from things that have happened, and it's still a good experience.
Yeah, and that's a great thing for everyone to understand, isn't it? It's that kind of organicness of everything, that this isn't what we're after. We're after a better learning experience. We're after improvement. We're after trying to see what works. And I think the kids get that sense of everything as well. It's really important.
And then the end result is basically 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds being at a concert, which I never went to anything at that age. I never went to anything until I was 18, and and I didn't know what I was doing. So. But to be to a live music experience of that size when you're that age, and yet you're the stars as well. I mean, that's the crux of it. Them to feel like they are the main event, and then there's resources afterwards. You can look online. There's always videos and DVDs, and hopefully that's recorded well as well. So there's another experience to be had later on when they're saying, "Wow, look at that! That was me," And if they can do more than 1 year, then brilliant. I think some schools can't do a lot of kids, and they can afford one coach.
Yes,
each
that's
year.
right. Yeah.
How there are schools that come with 280 kids, how they do that, I have no idea what they do. Some people send the entire school, and they're up there, and they have their enormous banner, and they give us a wave, and thank you so much,
Yeah.
And so there's some schools that are taking every child through 5 times maybe.
Yeah.
But there are others who, we're year 5, and they can't wait to be in year 5, and we've got to deliver that, and we've got to deliver another rich, enriching, exciting musical experience where they're going to learn from it and hopefully give them the springboard to take a musical interest or even a career elsewhere. Sometimes it's important that we try and involve young voices on the stage as well. It's not always possible, because sometimes there's some brilliant artists who are almost as old as I am who are great working with kids. And that's a wonderful experience too, where you see the interaction. Last year we had Natalie Williams, phenomenal at interacting with the kids, and they tried a bit of scat jazz and impromptu stuff, and each night was slightly different, and that's a great experience too, and the band enjoy that too.
Yeah, I mean, certainly as a parent who's been to a concert and the events, it is that kind of, you can tell the relationship between yourself and the band and the children performing and the teachers performing and being there as well. Is the fact that I know as a professional musician, to have a limited amount of time with that amount of people, to get it to all come together during an afternoon rehearsal and an evening concert takes an awful lot of skill and an awful lot of understanding. And what sort of gave you the support to be able to do that? Is it your natural kind of ability to kind of get that across, or is it sort of just a big learning curve?
Well,
really?
for me, I think it's trying to get the music pack. It's a balance, isn't it? It's got to be varied. It's got to be challenging for those schools who have moved on and really want to do 2-part, maybe even 3-part harmonies and some more tricky repertoire. It's got to be basic enough for the schools who are there for the first time to feel like they can get on board and be part of it. The moves and grooves that we add as well, that's grown over the last 4 or 5 years with the wonderful street dancer Andy Instone from Urban Strides. We try and make sure that they're accessible and not impossible, and they work while they're singing as well. And there's, we always try and debate that and make sure that's good too. The balance of the pack is really important. I lose sleep over it when I'm putting it together. I've got 2019 in my head now, and it's still, there's lots of elements I need to sort out before.
And I was going to say, I mean, how long does it take to put all those resources together? You're sort of like, you're talking 2019, so we're a year ahead of.
Well, I used to start when I finished the tour, but that was like the second week of January. Now it's the second week of February. I have to start before Christmas,
right, for
the year after the one. So, and then of course there's the whole process of copyright and clearance, and that is quite a difficult process with young voices, because we're very high profile, and as we have the smallest school, you have to be squeaky clean in terms of copyright clearance and having the licenses for everything. We have to have a license for the sheet music, for the recorded demo, for the video we make on the day, for the existence of MP3s on websites, all that. Every single little bit has to be cleared.
Yeah.
And some publishers, for some reason, are not interested in 40,000 children learning their songs. Why would you not be interested in that? It baffles me. It's the biggest bugbear of this whole thing. And if I could sit those publishers around the table and try and get into their heads and say, guys, come on, you can benefit from this.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can all benefit from this. What is your problem? But then we have very good professional people who do that, who are agents between the publishers. They know some of these guys, and some of it takes very quick. It's very quick. And some of it isn't. And some of it you never get back. They just ignore you completely. And I won't go into any details, but we're having a bit of a wrangle at the moment with one particular piece of music in the States. And it's so sad. It's so sad. But, that's something we've got to cope with and do it properly, because, as I say, it doesn't matter how high profile you are with music. You have to be seem to be doing the right thing, and everyone will benefit from the end if everyone is honoured.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the States there. I mean, obviously it's a massive organisation here in the UK, but there is an international element to it as well, isn't there?
Yes, there have been Young Voices concerts in Germany, Trinidad and Tobago, South Africa, and the States. And the USA is just beginning to take off now. So I think they've got 5 or 6 this year, different cities near the New York area. That kind of is feeding out from there. Somebody doing some amazing work, linking the schools, getting the schools involved. It's slow going again. It's just like when we started. It's not exploding. It doesn't happen overnight. But there's enough interest, and I think they've been really quality concerts, as well. And they've come over here and they watch our concerts, and they've talked to us a lot. The setting up of it was really carefully done.
And do they take the resources that you already have in place? Or?
Some of them good, some of them are. Some of them I have to adapt. I'm still involved in a sort of consultation role in helping them with their stuff, and so I choose a medley, and they say, "Well, we like this, but this song doesn't work with us." And I said, "Well, it's very important to be in there. You can't just hoik it out, and then if you stick it together with musical yoo-hoo, everyone's going to say, what was that?" So the skill now is to try to find really suitable substitutes for those songs that make it seem like it was done like that all along. And I'm passionate about that. I don't think we can just lock, stock and barrel chop stuff up, but you have to change spellings, of course, and some things they don't understand. But by and large, it's working okay. And then this year, we've chosen some stuff from scratch that work with both teams. That's an ongoing thing and a wonderful sort of partnership. And it's nice to still be involved in that, although they'll have their own teams in terms of the band and the musical leadership.
Yeah, but it's nice when you've got a progression of something, especially something you've been doing for so long, isn't it? You sort of have your natural progression and improvement, like you said, over here, but to see it have a slightly different role, but see it just expand.
Yes, it's very exciting, and I really want to go over there maybe next year and see what they're doing with it. Germany is exciting as well, different of course. You can't use so much. You can't just translate some of our stuff into German and hope it works. So we had a couple of years there, and they've gone well as well. But I think they're taking a year off now, and they'll be, maybe trying again next year there, because there was some really quality stuff and some really good interest. I mean, a school from Hanover came and 2 years running just came to our concerts.
Right.
Just flew over and said, "We love this," and it was because of them it took off, which is a wonderful way for it to happen.
And there's also a charity element as well to Young Voices, isn't there?
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know so much about the history of that, but we've had a number of charities involved. And I mean, with so many people there each night, it's a good opportunity to link in with a charity, particularly to do with young people. So we had Macmillan Cancer Care originally. We've had Click Sargent. We've had Nordoff Robbins, the wonderful music therapy group. And this year we've got the Teenage Cancer Trust. And there's bucket collections, a little short talk, and then some more education about young people who are not so fortunate as you. And there's always a meaning behind that. There's always a worthiness to that. Well, I don't know how we've done it, but we've raised millions of pounds for those charities, as well as made a business run, and people are being happy with that. So I'm fully behind that. How it links with the music is maybe not so obvious, but we used to do a Click Sargent concert at the Albert Hall, and we would have some children who were going through chemo or had been through a remission, and they were performers, and they'd sing songs about their experience. And that's incredibly moving, and very humbling, and to be involved in that as well. Good stories and a good positive sort of sharing of a different aspect of life, which makes it the whole thing seem important.
Absolutely, absolutely, and being able to sort of see the world as a whole and how it affects people in different ways, I think.
And music can do that. Music can say things that words can't. You can get experiences from music, and underlying feelings and thoughts can be expressed, and a shared experience can be a healing one, as well as all sorts of things.
And I think that's really important, and that's the reason I wanted to do this season specifically through the podcast. Is because as a musician, I know this is what I experience every day, and for those people listening that just think, but it's just we haven't got the time, the curriculum's a bit squeezed, and we haven't got the money and all that sort of stuff. It's not just about doing another subject; it's about something you can't quite quantify in that same way, which is, I guess, part of the reason why the curriculum has changed somewhat, because the lack of being able to quantify it is a hard thing to put on any kind of table.
Yes.
But I do encourage anyone who has the chance to make it an integral part of their school. It's such an important thing, and something that every child gets so much out of. It's an amazing experience.
We hope so. We really do.
So we talked a little bit before we started recording about your 0 to 5-year-old songs that you have with. So tell me a little bit about that, and how maybe some of the children that will be involved in Young Voices, who've got younger children who might be interested in that kind of thing.
I'm a bit more background for this. So this is an old friend who set up saw an opportunity in the preschool kind of music group franchise thing. It's a thing I wasn't sure I knew was there. There's been all sorts of companies dealing with this. And I think the perception was that it got a bit old and tired, and that people were using various quite naff arrangements of nursery rhymes, and it was time to move on from there a bit, maybe. So he commissioned me to write some songs. I've ended up writing 125 songs. I think there may be another CD on the way, but I can't for the life of me think of anything to write about now, because the sound of scraping barrels was the loudest sound in the last 2 years when trying to find ideas for these. But they're little silly songs about, dodgems and eating and going on journeys and trips and waking up, going to bed and family and swings and faces. I know, think anything, hopefully. And it was aimed at 3 to 5-year-olds, some silly songs and some fun stuff with actions. And so I simply wrote the songs, didn't know what the people were going to do with them necessarily. And the people who have taken on Moo Music as a job have done some amazing things with them. They've built props, and they've thought up actions, and they shared them online. So there's a big Facebook group, and I love that as well. So there's a family element to that, which kind of grows from the internet, which is wonderful as well. And they really help each other. It's a very positive thing. And seeing it grow as well. Lots and lots of people doing Moo Music out there, up and down the country, and that's international too. And occasionally I drop into a group without them knowing and see how they're using the songs. Yeah. And the kids are excited from another younger age about music and about what music can do and how important that can be as part of your life. Yeah. And so there we go. So there's that age group.
And to go almost full circle, for any teachers that are listening that enjoy their singing beyond Young Voices, you do an awful lot of community choirs and that kind of thing. And so tell us a little bit about that and how important that is for teachers and people in the community that enjoy singing.
Well, by a happy accident, I started to run a choir in Milton Keynes 10 years ago. I was involved in a adult singing for fun group, which then evolved and added to another group, and so that's been going for quite a while. And of course you write resources, but you put them in a drawer. You can't do anything with them because you have no copyright clearance for things like that. But all the time I was thinking, well, if we got the copyright clearance, we could put this online and other choirs could share this as well. So we're at a stage now where we've got some good people involved in helping us with the publishers and agents. They know who to talk to, how to talk about it, what to say. It's all very, technical, that side of stuff. Yeah. And so in January, we're launching a new website called choircommunity.com. And this is not just for community choirs, it's for school choirs, it's for church choirs in the workplace, any choirs. We're licensed for the UK, and there'll be hopefully some really useful and worthwhile choral arrangements, mainly a cappella. There's Gitta Partington, who's been doing it for longer than I have, and Richard Salt, who's been doing it for twice as long as she has. And they've had all these songs stuck in a drawer and on their heads, and now we're getting them on paper. We're getting each song will have a full set of learning MP3 tracks sung with your part, because also community choirs, we know they don't read music and they get taught by ear, and those MP3s themselves have their own license and clearance, and so you can't buy them unless you tell us how many you want. Right. So how many are in your choir, and there's a certain minimum number there. So we're appealing to people's sense of right and wrong about copyright clearance, and hopefully educating people, but also giving them, hopefully the main thing, giving them exciting resources and getting some great music out there, and enabling something to happen which maybe some people haven't thought could happen. There's all these big companies out there online, but the choral thing is a bit sort of sidelined by them. And you look at it, you buy something and you think, well, it's either costing me £2.90 a copy, which I can't do, or it's a bit shoddily put together, and I don't know if this is going to work with my choir. But so we've got resources, hopefully, which will say, well, here's a demo of it, here's an MP3, here's your PDF, here's a little sort of excerpt. If you like the sound of this, it's going to cost you 50p a copy. How many people are in your choir? Right, that's 20 quid. and here's some learning tracks for an extra £5. And I hope that's doable. I'm sounding like a bit of a salesman here. I'm not sure I was going to be, and the potential there is great, because we want to widen that community. And I know lots of other arrangers there who've got stuff, and they can come to us with their stuff, and we can give them a page, and they can benefit from this too. But it's all got to be done properly.
Yes,
we've had a lot of refusals. People say, no, you can't put that on there because we own it and we don't want you to do anything with it. Fine, but hopefully some people are saying that, and we'll see how it goes. But we're excited about that as a prospect, because it seems to be a little bit new. It seems to be needed.
Yes,
it seems to be a resource that people have been looking for a while and haven't found. And hopefully, if they're looking, they will find us. I have no idea how to get it out there. We've got a few people signed up through a Facebook and Twitter link, but then it's a sort of new thing to us as well.
Yep.
So we're learning as well.
Yep.
And again, it'll be a family thing. It'll be a community thing. I think that's the way I love things to work. I did a concert with my community choir on Saturday, and I think it was the 7th or 8th Christmas concert we've done, and that's a wonderful family occasion, and they were excited about that. You know, those people don't normally get to perform. They didn't know they could sing, some of them, you know, and there they are singing in harmony, and singing to their family and friends as well, and that's a wonderful thing.
And I think that's it. I think it's that passion for music which comes from you, which I think obviously just spills into everything that you do and comes across. And I think any of you that are going to be at a Young Voices concert or part of any of these community events over the next few weeks in early 2018, just really enjoy yourselves. And I hope this conversation has given you a little bit of an insight and a behind the scenes look of exactly the person that who's conducting you and being part of it, and just really enjoy yourselves and make the most of it.
One thing I could say, I don't know if this helps you, Mark, maybe you're thinking that's a horrendous thing to say, but if anyone has any questions to me about the Young Voices, or about has flagged up from this conversation that I haven't quite covered, then could they send them in?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then we could answer questions. Maybe have another session in a few months' time.
That would be fantastic.
Down the road,
absolutely,
and
yes,
then we can sort of go a bit deeper into it, and
that would be fantastic. So all the links and all the bits of information will be on the show notes. So that's educationonfire.com, and just in the search bar, just write Young Voices, and everything will come through. Send me an email at mark@educationonfire.com with any questions you have or any comments or anything related to that, and that'll be a fantastic thing to do. We can meet up and talk through those things and have a real sort of dialogue about that, which I think would be brilliant.
I look forward to that.
Fabulous. Thanks so much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for listening to the Education on Fire podcast. For more information of each episode and to get in touch, go to educationonfire.com. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire.